So we recognize the body as the most intelligent system, or the most intelligent and most advanced technology in the universe. So if we can actually give it access to that full spectrum of minerals, of vitamins, of amino acids, it's clever enough to take what it needs and utilize those to run at an optimal level.
You're my last focus, major focus for the day. So stoked to have this conversation, brother. Yeah, thanks for all the work you do, and thanks for the work you've done. And I can't wait for people to hear that story, as I'm equally excited, being someone that's traveled around the world looking for, the manna. It's quite special. And I, not to just jump right into the product, but I was traveling all throughout Brazil and the savannah, and just having those little packs, just because I've always been a big get the right minerals in, and just having those little packs, man, they're brilliantly created, because it's so easy. Like, how many days am I gone? I actually do multiple times a day. It's fantastic. So number one, I want to thank you for that, because it made my life a lot easier, and knowing that I was getting some essentials along the way.
Yeah, thanks, Darin. It's a big part of the innovation and the R&D that we've been doing, is to make it easy to use, single dose sachet, so that, yeah, exactly, people can travel with it, people can administer the right amount, and there's less chance of contamination. As you know, one of the active ingredients, shilajit, is a black resin, and it can be quite challenging to work with. So to actually get it into easy to use single sachet that you can travel with, or you can have in your pocket, or you can have in your backpack, was a huge intention of ours. So we're glad that we're able to make it happen.
I mean, that's the biggest challenges of shilajit. It's been around for a long time, clearly, and people have used it, but it's very difficult to use, and it turns off a normal person, right? It's not so keen to do whatever it takes to get it in their body, and you just eliminated that whole step and made it a lot more user friendly. So fantastic work on that. And I just want to acknowledge that, because I literally was using it like crazy, and it was just so awesome to know that I could use that, have that use it in varying situations, and then know that I'm going to get the best minerals ever.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's the first multi-layered packaging of its kind. And we've been in R&D with it for like 4 or 5 years. And we've actually got a compostable version of it coming out, which we've been in R&D with for 6 years. We're partnered with a company called NatureWorks. So that was one of the big things for us in going to the single dose, is we wanted to make sure it was sustainable and eco-friendly. So we're in production for compostable ones now as well, which is epic, because you can throw them into your compostable, and obviously the tiny amount of trace minerals that are left in there are incredible for the garden as well. So it's almost like a second product.
Yeah, exactly. You're going through those every week, and being able to dump those in your garden, fantastic. Well, hey, brother, let's get into the importance of course we can go down many roads, but just to lead in, minerals of the soil, minerals upregulated into plants, are the elemental expressions, aspects of what we require in this matrix of a world, right? Our chemistry, our biology, biophotonically, like there's a lot going on with all of that. But the very clear thing that's happened in our industrial revolution is the way we farmed, clearly, the way we have not taken care of the soil, not taken care of the plants. So we are, sprinting towards the demineralization of our plants and of ourselves, and just setting the context. We there's so many compounds. I think there was one doctor said there was potentially 2.5 to 5 million compounds in our plant kingdom, right? Making up our plant kingdom, right? So But I say that because the constituents to which they are built upon are minerals, right? And same with us. So if you don't have the essential building blocks for life, it doesn't matter what you're trying to biohack your way into. You don't have the correct masonry to vitality from a vitality standpoint, but just from a very clear biological standpoint, you're just, you're running the risk of not, what am I trying to say? Trying to get something that you can't get unless you have the actual building blocks, the minerals. So anyway, maybe from your perspective, I would love to hear the genesis, because then we'll get into the unpacking of your pursuit, literal to finding the best. But what gave you that start of say, hey man, this is a big problem in society, and as a species, we need minerals?
It's a great question, and I knew we were going to have a great conversation, Darin, because you get it. You actually understand that minerals and these salts and these trace elements are the building blocks of our biological system, and actually all of life. And, when I discovered, and it's been known by science for a long time now, that there's 90 basic nutrients that our bodies require to run in an optimal state. And those 90 nutrients is 17 vitamins, 59 minerals, 12 amino acids, and 3 fatty acids. So when I figured that out, I went on a mission where we literally traveled to the ends of the earth to find the best of those micronutrients that we could. And turns out they come from the top of the planet in the high mountains and the bottom of the earth in some of the high concentrated ocean expressions. So we literally get our micronutrients from both the plant world and the ocean world, and then we combine those together and put them in this single-use, easy-to-use sachet that you can have in your kitchen. So yeah, it's really, once I understood that those 90 nutrients were what we needed for our bodies to have access to those building blocks. And as you said, those building blocks, they're no longer in a lot of our foods anymore because they're no longer in a lot of our soils anymore. So that's what kind of sent me on that mission to find the very best that we could and make them available to people, because I understood that if we're not receiving all of those 90 nutrients and those minerals, that there's going to be deficiencies in our expression. And there's a lot of studies and a lot of research now that show if we don't have access to those minerals, or a lot of illness, disease, and compromised conditions comes back to a lack of minerals in the body. So yeah, that's really the precipice for why we're so passionate at Manna about providing these essential nutrients for as many people as resonate with that.
Yeah, so let's unpack the minerals for a second, because clearly you can go to any drugstore and buy vitamins and minerals and daily packs and whatever the hell, right? And they're different forms, and it's impossible for a normal consumer to understand what the hell the difference is. Impossible, right? But on some level, we have been told like minerals are good for us and vitamins are good for us and we need them and all of these things. But there is a massive difference between what nature has provided and what we have, forced into a capsule or a combination of salts or carbonates or whatever it is. Describe in your terms and in your way the difference between the ancient shilajit plant material and then the deep sea minerals and the other constituents that are in this form that are bioavailable, that are recognizable, that are receptive on many levels, and we can get into all of that stuff. So so let's unpack that a little bit as to the difference of these minerals in this way compared to potentially others.
Yeah, so firstly, it's so important to have access to natural solutions. So natural minerals, natural vitamins, natural amino acids. Once we go down that synthetic path, which is 99% of what's in our supermarkets, our body doesn't actually recognize those synthetic materials. So it will discard them, or it will cause other imbalances in the body. The second thing is to not take things in isolation. Sometimes we need to if we're really deficient in something, but it's really important to not overload on one particular thing, because again, it's throwing our body out of balance. And nature's always seeking balance, and we're an extension of that nature, of that intelligence. So we recognize the body as the most intelligent system, or the most intelligent and most advanced technology in the universe. So if we can actually give it access to that full spectrum of minerals, of vitamins, of amino acids, it's clever enough to take what it needs and utilize those to run at an optimal level. So again, from once we figured that out, we went on to the mission of finding out what's the best form of those micronutrients. And what we came up with is two substances. There's ormus, and there's three different ways to make ormus. You can make ormus from seawater, you can make it from dead seawater, and you can make it from gold. We are making it from gold at the moment, but that's a very expensive process. So we're in R&D to drive those costs down before we make that available to the public. The other way, using seawater, it uses chemicals, uses a chemical called sodium hydroxide or potassium hydroxide, which is a bit of a nasty chemical. That's how 99% of people make it. And that's a chemical that's used as drain cleaner. So it's not ideal, even though it goes through an alchemical process and changes its chemistry. You still have to wash the precipitate and wash out those other minerals. So we've found a way to make it from dead seawater, which is a very unique source material. In that dead seawater, and not too many people know this, but dead seawater is only 8% sodium chloride. It's really high in magnesium, it's really high in potassium, it's really high in sulfur and calcium. So all of those other macro minerals and macro salts, which are essential again for our body. So we go to great lengths to make that sustainable. The Dead Sea itself is a fairly sustainable source, and that's where 50% of our ormus comes from. The other 50% we gather from down off Tasmania, actually in between Tasmania and Antarctica. And that goes through a solar evaporation process for 3 years to adjust those mineral ratios again. So we're reducing the sodium chloride, because seawater is mainly sodium chloride, and we're increasing those other macro salts. And then when we combine the two together using vortex technology, that solution turns white, which gives us the precipitate, which is elements in other energetic states. We can get into that a little bit more later on. So that's the ormus material, and it ends up being a very high concentration of, again, those macro minerals and also those trace elements. Actually, the highest resolution form of that we can provide. So it's 400,000 parts per million. Once we go any higher than that, the solution actually starts to solidify. So our holding tank is growing crystals in the bottom of it, like magnesium, potassium, sulfur crystals in the bottom of it. So that's half of the ingredients. The other half of the ingredients being shilajit. And shilajit, again, that's been touted as the top of the pharmacopoeia for the Chinese and Ayurvedic medicine for thousands of years. It's been known to, upregulate collagen, upregulate mitochondria. There's current studies which show it. They've done studies on plants and animals that show it to be an amazing nootropic. It upregulates anabolic hormones. And it also contains all of those macro and trace minerals as well. And then it has an incredible ingredient in it called fulvic acid. So our shilajit has 88% fulvic acid. And fulvic acid is amazing for many reasons, but one of the things it does, it has the vital capability to actually realize the potential of all of the nutrients we consume. And in particular with minerals and trace elements, when they come into contact with fulvic acid, they dissolve into a form which makes them active and also bioavailable. So that's one of the reasons we're so passionate about combining Shilajit with Ormus. It's kind of like a perfect marriage. The Ormus is from the bottom of the planet and it's white. The Shilajit's from the top of the planet and it's black. And when we combine the ocean and plant minerals and trace elements with that fulvic acid, it makes them active and bioavailable to the entire system. So it allows us to upregulate all of those bodily functions in a really profound way, actually. And Shilajit's one of those substances, as I said, it's been around for thousands of years. It's been known to cure and help with all kinds of things like reduce inflammation in the body. So amazing for a lot of diseases. It's been amazing for diabetes. It's been amazing for upregulating testosterone, sperm count in men, so a lot of fertility, testosterone in women as well. So testosterone is not only good for the physical body, but it's also incredible for the mind. And the thing with Shilajit is it's really important to find the best source as well. So we get our Shilajit from above 16,000 feet. We get it from multiple locations now, so that's sustainable. But the three top locations that we've found is Tibet, the Himalayas, and up through Siberia and the Altai ranges. So, and the reason being why we've chosen those locations is, again, at those higher altitudes, we find that the nutrient concentration is much richer and there's no toxins in the Shilajit, because that was also one of the fears 15, 20 years ago with Shilajit, that it could have, when it was mined from those lower elevations, it could have toxins or heavy metals inside it. So we batch test every batch that we make, and we end up with, we have zero issues with heavy metals or toxins. And I believe a lot of that is because it goes through a natural filtration process when it gets up to those higher altitudes. So it's more expensive to do that. It's harder to get it. This year, we'll actually be engaging 600 people to go out and collect Shilajit from those ranges. But yeah, it's worth doing it that way so that we can provide the actual best of those micronutrients to our customers.
Yeah, let's get into Shilajit a little bit, and I would love to go on that excursion one day.
We've got to do it.
It's interesting to me, like the from A to Z, like the processing part of it, like the foraging of it, the gathering of it, the testing of it, the cleaning of it, the use of it. That's got to be incredibly fascinating. And maybe before we you talk through that a little bit, let's so people fully understand what Shilajit is, right? Mm-hmm. So it's this super black ooze, right? From what do you think the average, because it's plant material that's been interacting, soil, minerals, interacting for thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years. What's the age of your Shilajit that you can best understand?
That's a good question. We'll have to ask God that one. But no, it is. It's thousands of years old. It's Shilajit is really a biogenetic stimulant. And what I mean by biogenetic stimulant is when plants are subject to extreme environmental conditions like temperature or pressure, hot, cold, any of these extreme conditions, what happens is they develop multiple protective compounds. And when we're able to extract those protective compounds and consume them into our biology, it improves our metabolism. It improves our resilience and protection. So it's incredible for antiviral properties and immune defense in general, and and improves our overall health. So that's the main thing with Shilajit from my perspective, is that biogenetic stimulant with, again, all of those elements, vitamins, and also amino acids and fulvic acid as part of its concentration, concentrated form. So I guess the one downside with it, like I mentioned before, is it's very hard to get, because when you get it from those high altitudes, it's only available for about 8 weeks of the year, right? Which is July and August, because the rest of the time it's under the snow. And the other thing is, it's like one way I explain it is it's like getting a bucket of soil and distilling that bucket of soil down over thousands of years until you end up with half a teaspoon of nutrients. So if you have half a teaspoon of nutrients from half a bucket of soil, you can imagine what it's going to taste like. Yeah. Super concentrated, super thick resin. So that's one of the other challenges with shilajit is actually making it taste somewhat palatable so that it can be ingested.
Right. Well, yeah. This opens up this world that is so complex, so infinite, so, I start thinking of, 15 years ago when people started talking about effective microorganisms, right? Like kind of like a smaller version of soil health and making kind of its own fulvic and fungal beneficial fungal activity and creating soil remediation, upregulating the soil, repairing the soil, regulating into plants, creating stronger plants, like all of that stuff. I was in the middle of the Yucatan with a guy who was creating like his little micro versions of effective microorganisms, kind of trying to put temperature and pressure together to create that for soil. And this is nature's, like the ridiculous time that nature has provided and has gone through. And this is not decayed animal. It's not oil. It may look like oil, but it's it's plant material that's concentrated full of this activator, pleomorphic activator of fulvic. And then the coming together with the antioxidants, the amino acids, and then these full spectrums of minerals that we literally have to have in order to maintain. And I also then appreciate every drop of it, right? And people don't understand. Like I've been in the Tibetan mountains, running around. We were looking at rhodiola and different forms of rhodiola rosea and all of this stuff. And it was at, I don't know, 17,000 feet at one point. And then you find a plant and then you get to test the plant and you get to look like, and then you realize like if if a product has those things in it, I spent a career doing that. The value that we're trying, and you're trying to do it, which is immediately when I met you guys, you're trying to take this incredibly difficult thing to make a business out of. And really the business is just a medium of exchange of ancient plant material that we require, that we love, that we resonate with, in order for that to be in our lives, certainly as a Band-Aid for the lack of respect of nature that we've been under for the last 75 years, that I really, really want to stress that the links at which you are going for people to benefit from literal mana from the plant, I can't emphasize enough. That's why I immediately resonated with you and respect you guys for what you're doing, because it's wildly difficult. Because you're extracting this incredible plant material, and then making it so convenient that people don't even realize this is literally from the top of the earth. This is literally from the bottom. You know what I mean? I want to emphasize that because I understand what you have done, and this is a service first. It has to be, because you can make money doing anything. If you're out to make money, this is a bad idea because it takes years. You know what I mean? It's years just to get to the point where you can sell one, right? So. Of course, over time, it will be a business and you will be able to, have a life because of it. But I just want to put this in context. I don't mess around with companies that aren't doing the right thing. And I just want to, just from a little bit of superfood hunting over 20 years, I just wanted to emphasize that point, because the value that you're getting and the money you're paying for it, this came from corners of the globe so that you can be in your life squirting this in your water and allowing you to have a vitality that you would not normally get. So that's my rant for a second. You can comment on any of that if you want.
Yeah, no, thanks for saying that, Darren. I really appreciate it. This has been a decade in the making, actually over a decade. And, we are, Manna is the manufacturer as well. So we're the supplier, we're the manufacturer, we do the packaging. And so that's why it's taken us so long to be able to get this to the market. And we provide it in a sustainable way. So we're huge into sustainability. We're big into sovereignty. We go to the locations like in 2014, I actually slept at the Dead Sea for 88 nights on the bank of the sea and was sun gazing, was getting in the hot springs, was getting the black mud all over me, was reading sacred texts and just immersifying myself into the minerals. And, it turns out that particular area at Engedi and Qumran was where the Essenes spent a lot of time. It's where Cleopatra spent a lot of time. King David spent a lot of time. And then spent a lot of time wandering through the Sahara Desert, spent a lot of time up at 17,000 feet in the Himalayas as well and above, went to Mount Kailash and Mount Everest. And, we went down to the bottom of Tasmania. That's where we get our sea minerals that we combine with the Dead Sea minerals, as I said before, and then out to Uluru. So we did a lot of pilgrimages, went to a lot of these sites and a lot of these places. And to be honest, the search started with the big question, where did we come from? What are we doing here? Where are we going? And it was along that path that we really discovered, these sacred elements, these sacred minerals, and started looking at things actually from like a first principles of nutrition and what are the building blocks when we come out of energy into form. And as you identified earlier, it's like the masonry. It's like those minerals, and the extension of the minerals is the molecules, which is the vitamins and the amino acids and the fatty acids. It's like so important for us to get those. And they're just not in our food and soils anymore. I think there's a study that from the Department of Agriculture, the US Department of Agriculture, and it shows that there's only 20% of the minerals and fulvic acid in our soil that there was 100 years ago. So that means if we're only getting 20%, there's 80% missing. There's these huge deficiencies in our expressions. And from my experience, it's so important for us to be exposed and connected to nature. I actually believe that's one of the huge challenges that we're facing on the planet at the moment, where a lot of the disease and illness and mental challenge is coming from, is we're so disconnected from the source of who we are, being nature, being the elements. And so what we're actually doing with Manna is we're putting nature, the concentration of these natural expressions, again, into this easy to use single sachet that you can keep in your kitchen and take once a day. So it's our little way of bringing nature back to the people and back to the body, being that, as I said, that most intelligent system that can then utilize that to stay vital, stay fit, and stay connected to the source of who we are.
Yeah, beautifully said, man. I mean, that's every morning, every afternoon, I squirt that black gold into my glass. It just gives me a smile. And there's something with, there's very pragmatic stuff we can talk about. The fulvic, the humic, the amazing studies that it has, the vitality of the right size minerals. We can get into size. Size matters as it relates to cellular health, cellular function, cellular upregulation, biochemistry, chemistry of the body, the size of the cell. That's why with nature, with plants, with the upregulation that fulvic does and breaking down of the chelation of the minerals, and the minerals upregulating the plants, and the plants then utilizing those minerals, and then us eating those plants and us being able see that is how it's always has been supposed to, how it's been done, right? And and so now we're in this weird world where there wouldn't need to be any vitamins and minerals sold ever if we were moving in harmony, living in regenerative expression with our life, with our food, going outside, picking my food, picking my breakfast, picking my lunch, so clearly our modern day world, obviously I coined a term called fatal conveniences. Our modern day world is gotten so off track. And yet, as humans, we adapt so well to whatever's thrown at us.
Mm-hmm.
You can shovel anything in your mouth. You can eat ultra processed food, and your body just continues to move forward. Clearly, there's a debt that will be collected, right? There's no vitality in the food. There's barely any nutrients, all of that stuff. So our modern world has deemed here in America, 97% of us are sick. 97% are not vital. And then other countries are adopting the same westernized approach. So that's where this whole context comes in, where you and I are having this conversation where you had to spend a decade or more finding out the elements that we have left along the way, right? So we find ourselves having to reconstitute from our intelligence. I believe in sovereignty as well. I believe that we have the vitality, the awareness, the knowledge within us always, but we have become so modernized, so dimmed, so abused in certain ways of chemical exposures, of all of this stuff, that having those questions, starting your questions as who are we? What are we? What do we require? And how the hell are we supposed to get there? Is the essence, I think, of every company. Any company should be asking, because that changes the trajectory of everything. And people have to be aware that, profits and power over the health of our world is everywhere. And this isn't some weird conspiracy. This is just straight up, why are they selling us chemicals that are harming us? Obviously, I spent 3 years talking about that in my book. So that's why I love this. That's why I love what you've done, because it's asking those questions that then lay the foundation for you to do this work, to be able to provide the vehicle for people to receive the very essence that we should have been receiving, but we were born into a time and place and space where we were already divorcing those qualities and already were being inoculated with poisons from these things that we've been doing. So we find ourselves, you and I, on a computer, like talking from different continents but talking about the very essence that every one of us, even our pets, by the way, both of my dogs receive Manna every day. Right?
I love it.
All absolutely.
Awesome.
So anyway, it's so important, this stuff.
Yes.
And I want to just express that from my heart to everyone listening. Excuse me for saying this, but when people say it's just a business, when this shit's just business and it's expensive and all of that stuff, I say bullshit on all of that stuff, because what you're doing is, you can't do it for free, because that's not the way the world is set up. I just want to emphasize that this is some of the most vital things that we can do to put these elements back in our bodies so that we have a freaking fighting chance to live the best life ever.
Yeah, again, thanks for saying that, Darin. And, from Manna, from our perspective, we actually went the wrong way around starting a business, where we actually found these incredible elements and went to great lengths to find the best source of those that we could, then went to great lengths to put it into single dose sachets. And all of that has a massive cost. Like getting Shilajit from above 16,000 feet has a massive cost. Putting it in single dose sachets and working on the R&D of that for 4 years has a massive cost. So we actually have massive costs. And I can tell you currently as a business, we're not making any money, but that's not our focus. Behind our business is a foundation anyways. So it's not a corporation where we're looking to make a whole lot of money, and anything that comes into the foundation, we have iteration of products coming, which is really a liquid replacement of food, because that's the way we see everything heading. And it's like the fantastic work that you do with fatal conveniences, right? Like that's just amazing as well. It's highlighting some of these really important issues in our society that we're discussing. Just back to Manna, it's like if we're taking a sachet of Manna a day, if we're getting access to those building blocks of life, if we're getting access to some morning light, if we're getting our feet on the ground, if we're breathing in oxygen, like very simple, low-cost things. Manna, for a sachet of Manna, costs $3.70 a day. So combining that with these other connections to nature, it really, everything after that is a bonus, right? Like we actually have the health and vitality to focus on providing some of these other solutions that you're looking at as well with fatal conveniences. And it's so important. We're in this incredible time of change where there's a lot of challenge. There's a lot of things we're not doing correctly as a humanity. However, we're now, one of the catalysts from having such struggle is we get these brilliant minds finding solutions. So once we can just eradicate a lot of this illness and disease that's caused environmentally and bring our bodies back to these levels, it's like getting our heads back above water again. So we can actually think clearly, we can feel good physically, and actually focus on some of these solutions, because I believe we're actually heading into an incredible era. Consciousness is changing rapidly. People are understanding the truth of who they are more. They're questioning things. And so it's a really exciting phase. And, it's just these little things each day that have compound interest that can make a massive effect and a massive impact. So it's, it's exciting.
Yeah. And I think, I know technically it's called, the Manna is called a supplement, but it's like, as I'm listening to you talk, and like, I don't know, $3 a day or whatever it turns out to be, I know that people can say, oh my God, it's $3 a day. Well, you can also scrutinize your rest of your life and look at all the ways you're throwing money away towards these other bullshit things: personal care, cleaning products, laundry detergent, all this stuff that's actually harming you. I would venture to say that this is a food, right? This is essential, foundational nutrients food. So think about this as, I know that it's not filling you up like a freaking, fast food, but what it is it's filling your body full of minerals and essential nutrients that, by the way, will help your metabolism, will help your satiation, because your body's really looking for the elements. It's not looking for volume of pressure, which can work to fill someone up, but it's looking for the essential elements that your food should have. So think of this as, and this was never a thought until now. I said it's not supposed to sell anyone on anything. But for me, with this stuff, this is filling the gap of our modern world to give you that nutrient power that you require, that you need to upregulate your body in optimizing in the best way possible. So think of it in terms of you're making up for the lack of all the food you're buying, no matter what it is, right? All the food you're buying is lacking it. It's not fresh. But again, people should grow their own food if possible and support local farmers and all of that stuff 100%. And this is where we find ourselves. What are we supposed to do other than we're creating an opportunity for people to receive this stuff, and it's utterly the foundation to which we build upon, both in the soil itself as well as our bodies.
Yes, and I don't know what the price of a cup of tea is in America at the moment. I guess it's different in different states, but I bought a cup of tea yesterday at Byron Bay in Australia, and it cost me $8. So things are getting more expensive, and that was just in a regular cafe, by the way. It wasn't anything fancy. But to your point, I think a lot of people forget that we're actually saltwater beings. So it's that old saying, by molecular count, we're 99% water. And there's been a lot of talk about water and structured water. And I'm a huge advocate of water and structured water through vortexing and through intention. However, people forget we're saltwater beings. So every single water that comes out of our system, whether it's our tears or our urine or our sweat, it's all salt water. And you can't actually find a single cell of fresh water in your body. It'd be like putting, a bottle of spring water in the ocean and then trying to get that spring water back. So again, with the Manna, what we're doing is we're providing all of those minerals and those salts, which are so important. And just something else to mention on that is, the important thing to remember with a water molecule, or actually a cell, right? A cell will only take in one water molecule at a time. So it's really fussy. And what it's looking for within that water molecule that it's going to let in is two main things. One is its geometry, which is its structure. And the second is its electromagnetic potential, which is its mineral composition. So again, if we're just drinking a whole bunch of fresh water, we're going to be dehydrated, and dehydration equals aging. So it's really important that we have good quality water. It's really important that the water is structured, because that gives its geometry. It's like turning up to a club and there's a security guard and he's checking your QR code, right? Your QR code has two things. It has the geometry of the structure and then the mineral composition. If you got both of those, the water molecule can come into the cell. So even though a lot of people are drinking a lot of water, if it's just tap water, or if it's unstructured, or if it doesn't have minerals in it, then the cell actually won't let it in. And we have three main waters within the body, being the blood plasma, the interstitium, which is actually the largest organ in the body, and then the intercellular fluid. So what we're really doing with Manna, because it's like we actually have like a mineral-rich tide flowing through our entire body, through the interstitial fluid, this largest organ in the body. So we're remineralizing that mineral-rich tide, that mineral-rich sea, that mineral-rich ocean. And the beauty of that is those nutrients that are coming in through our blood can now get into our cells, because the gateway from the blood into the intercellular fluid is this interstitial fluid, or the extracellular fluid. So once that has all of its electrolytes, trace minerals, micronutrients, it's like it turns into like a highway. It's like an electrical system. So I really see the shilajit in Manna. It's almost like fertilizer for the blood. People's blood counts just go through the roof after taking it. And the ormus component is really like the electrifying part of the product. It's really like turning everything on. It's going into those microtubules of the cells and turning that whole system on and firing it up. And a lot of that, the nutrients can come in through the blood into the cells because they can travel through that conductivity of the interstitial fluid. And the other great thing is the toxins can come out, because again, there's connection, there's circuitry connection, there's charge. And so even from we measure cell membrane potential as another thing. And the cell membrane is like a battery. And once the higher the negative charge on that cell membrane potential, it creates like a force field around the cell. So the higher the negative charge, the greater the force field around the cell membrane potential. And once that force field is high enough, we're basically immune from any viruses, any disease, and actually slows down aging as well. So so there's more than we think to just providing these building blocks. Is actually fertilizing, remineralizing, and charging these fluids in our body, again being saltwater beings, and sacks of water, right? 99% of us is water. So important to remember that component as well.
Well, I love that you brought up, because all of that stuff that you brought up is I mean, we could spend another week talking about all of the complexity of what you just said. And I love that, because, you bring up such a powerful point, because there is no fresh water in our bodies. It's only salt, right?
Mm.
It's only salt. And so I come up against this all the time. If you're drinking tap water, you're definitely receiving chemicals, chemical exposure, PFAS, pharmaceuticals, pesticides, herbicides, BPA, all these things. So you have to filter water. We don't have, very few people in the world have access to fresh water.
Mm-hmm.
So in cleaning that, reverse osmosis, distillation, you strip it. You get rid of at least the mechanical gunk or the gunk in there, right? And then you have to remineralize it, right? So it's such a interesting concept that people still don't understand. You have to add salts back in. You don't want to just drink stripped water, because the body, yeah, you can drink it and the body will rob itself of areas of less urgency and steal minerals in order for it to hydrate areas that are, i.e., organs, blood, all of that stuff, and then, keep it, eyes, skin, hair, nails, like it will pull the water from less optimized or less urgent areas. So there's a lot going on. So we have to resalt, we have to remineralize. So I just want to emphasize that. Then when you're talking about the osmotic flow, right? This flow that goes in and out of the cells, the tides that go, lymphatic system flow, hormonal flows, all of this stuff is liquid. It's liquid. It's funny when you look, I study physiology, when you look at charts, there's no liquid. You're just looking at muscles and tendons and hearts and ligaments and bones and all of that stuff. The main orchestra that is the conduit of movement of it all is water, and it moves all the hormones, it moves all the debris out, all of that stuff. The only way we're talking about that is when you pee and when you defecate, right? Or when you throw up. Or when you cry. But that's the outer representation. So I want to emphasize that we are liquid salt beings inside, right? And
beautifully said.
What you talked about was also this electrical potential. Yes. So the 70 trillion cells, they're batteries, people. They're literal batteries, right? We are
hence the name cell.
Yeah. Exactly. Battery cell. That's it, right? So we are electromagnetic beings. We are conductive, we are receptive, we are interacting with the Schumann resonance of the earth, with the sun's energy, the photons. It's a fucking unbelievable miracle. But on that cellular level, if we're not having the right minerals, then the telecommunication network, right? The real telecommunication network doesn't do a good job. It doesn't allow for the cells to work. Plus, I'm sure you looked at Dr. Gerald Pollack's work, the fourth phase of water, so that almost that field is not only electromagnetic field, it's actually a very physical field of pushing the protons and electrons away from each other and creating that exclusion zone, right? And that alone has been proven, at least through Dr. Pollack and many, I've met at least 20 doctors who look at water, that proton and electron push and separate and create energy as a result of them coming up against the lipophilic cell membrane. All that to say, there's so much going on, but at the core of it, we have to have the right minerals for conduction of the, like you said, Dr. Tennant's great book, what's the title? I forget. But anyway, talking about the millivolts of healthy tissue versus not healthy tissue. The only way that we are going to conduct healthy electromagnetic fields, both on a cellular level, both inner and outer, and repairing of our bodies, is potential millivolts of electricity. And if you don't have, again, the building blocks, your body can't operate optimally. I'm just, dude, there's so much to talk about, but I just wanted to kind of people, we think of the body as almost like a car mechanic, right? It's like, okay, the American Medical Association and all the others, the Western model, you just go in and pull this joint and replace it and all of that stuff. That's such an archaic way of understanding. But this interaction between minerals and water and our foundation of health is at the core of everything. So anyway, I was just trying to summarize a little bit of that. There's just so much going on with.
No, I love it, brother. I love your passion. And you're such a great advocate for it because you're so fit and vital yourself. I mean, you mentioned 70 trillion cells in the body. That might be your body because you're a massive unit. I think most bodies have about 37 trillion cells, and each cell, when it's full of charge, holds about 0.2 of a volt, which means if every cell was fully charged to its capacity, a human being would actually hold 6 trillion volts. And at that point, again, it's immune to those environmentally caused conditions, the diseases, the viruses. So yeah, our electrical systems, it's so important to have that charge and have that, because then it gives us all of that vitality, and it gives us our connection too. As you say, there's like the connection, all the intercellular connection is just firing at that point. And I know my business partner and good friend of 27 years, Brad McDonnell, he loves talking about the body related to Manna. I talk a lot about the nature side. He loves talking about the body side. And then our third business partner and founder, Dr. Beth McDougall, she loves breaking down a lot of the clinical studies on concentrated ocean plasma and shilajit. But yeah, there's so much in the science of it as well, because it's been touted, as I say, there's these incredible solutions for remedies for thousands of years, whether it was in the East with the shilajit or whether it was in the West with the ormus and the mani and the Egyptians in the Essenes. But modern day science is actually validating a lot of these claims, which is really exciting as well. So a lot of that is on our website.
Yeah, I encourage people to look because it's just fascinating, and it's the material essence of what you need. And yes. So, I'm people don't want to, it's sometimes, life is so challenging, certainly now for people, a lot of people, and they don't want to necessarily have another thing to think about, but not thinking about your body and your vitality and your mind, and that part of your life is just one of the biggest mistakes, I think, right? So it's like
100%.
Like giving, it's so easy because we created these models where we give our power away to some person to then tell us what to do about us. And it's a failed model. It's not creating ease, but more majority is disease. And we've also normalized it, right? We've normalized killing billions of animals in the sake of food. We've normalized that majority of the people are sick and can't function, and that is, and it's almost like these conversations are ways of just lightly grabbing people and shaking them to go like, listen, do not give your power away to other people. You can learn and educate. Don't even listen to us. Go on the website, look at the studies, look at the research. Listen, if things resonate with you, then follow it up and be your own advocate. Be your own advocate for your own journey of health and vitality and the cornerstone of health. Hell, if you just did one thing and remineralized your body, you're going to be 1,000,000% better than trying to go to some biohacking conference and stick on a $10,000 unit to get a better meditation. It's like there's nothing wrong with some of that stuff, but priorities
Yeah.
are kind of, kind of shifted a bit. And so,
yeah. And I can tell you, Darin, as well, it's like, after going through the process of developing a dietary supplement within the US, 99% of what's being sold, you might as well be taking cardboard. There's no vitality in it. There's no active components to it. It's not being absorbed by the body. And I say that very confidently because, I had to deal with going through the regulatory process where the first thing they want to do is kill it. They want to heat it, or they want to change the pH, or they want to do something else to it where there's nothing left in it. And a lot of the manufacturing facilities,
want to kill stuff.
Yeah, a lot of the manufacturing facilities, they're getting things out of 1,000-liter tubs that are powders that have come from China, and they've been sitting in those containers for years. There's nothing left in them. So, by taking Manna, even though, yes, it is $3.70 a day for the convenience of getting, the shilajit from above 10,000 feet into a single dose sachet into your kitchen, the beautiful thing with it is you can drop taking a lot of those other things that people are taking, which are doing nothing for them. So it's like when we say it's the perfect formula for your everyday. One of the things we mean by that is it's got everything you need in it to give you that base layer of health and nutrition that a lot of other things don't. So it's almost like you can reduce a lot of those other things, which again helps bring those costs down. I'm always amazed when I'm over in the US, because I spend about 6 months there of the year, and I'm traveling around meeting a lot of people, and the amount of tablets, the amount of supplements that some people will pour into their hand each morning and down and then go again. It always fascinates me. So, this is a way of reducing some of that.
We're easily swayed. Yeah, we're easily swayed by some marketing, razzle padazz. That's basically where that comes from. And I think on one level where it's coming from is ultimately people know they're not taking care of themselves. And so if you come in with a great story without much backing it up, then they just buy the story and then they continue in this pursuit. That's why I love companies like yourself, where you've done so much of the work. And I celebrate that. I celebrate that with you. Like I said, I've spent so much of my career in and out of facilities, seeing where people get it wrong, seeing, you do all this work and then all of a sudden it's in a product and it's no good anymore. What the hell is the point? Right. And the point is that we have an opportunity to deliver. And I hate to keep using the word, but the Manna, the Gaia, the essence of this amazing mineral ooze that you put conveniently in it. It's hard for me not to put Manna in all of my water. Like I just now I know you just say one a day, but I'm definitely way over one a day.
The reason we say one a day is because it actually is a really generous dose. So that's the other thing to notice with the price. So we've got 1,000 milligrams of shilajit in each sachet. So a lot of the competitors will give you 100 grams, 200 grams. So this is 10 or 5 times that dose. However, you can take 2 or 3 sachets a day. A lot of people do.
100 milligrams.
Yeah, so we have 1,000.
They'll have like 100 milligrams. Yeah.
Yeah, most of them are around 200 milligrams. So we've got 1,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So it's 5 times
so
that dosage.
A little dusting of milligrams in there, and then you put a full gram or 1,000 milligrams in there. Totally. And I love it.
And just back to the marketing as well. Yeah. I was just going to say, just back to the marketing as well, because that was another big area looking into that supplement world. It was just amazing, some of the stories that people were able to tell, which makes sense. I guess it gets people to buy. So one of the initiatives we're working through at the moment is actually having our entire process, from the collection of the raw materials of the shilajit and the ormus through to our manufacturer, through to our co-packer, through to our shipping, through to the customer. We're putting all of that on a blockchain, which will show exactly where it comes from and will show exactly the costs for each step. So that will be our marketing campaign. We're not going to tell some big fancy story. We're actually going to let that entire transparency of the entire process from where it's coming from to the customer's front door be our marketing campaign. So we're really excited to launch that.
Best use of blockchain right there. Just like
yes.
Open it up for people to totally see it and understand it, because listen, we've all been duped by the marketing claims of companies. They keep doing it, and they don't have much regulation at all. So to create that, I always believe that telling the truth is the greatest marketing ever. And then if you have the truth plus the 10 years that he took to get there, plus the blockchain transparency, then there's no more excuses.
Agreed.
Yeah. Well, next time you're in town, brother, you got to come by, and I gotta meet you also on top of the freaking Himalayas at some point too.
Yeah, we're going to do it. I've only been to Malibu once, and I absolutely loved it there. We'll have to get in the ocean, get some sunshine, and then we'd love to do a trip up to the Himalayas or even to the Dead Sea, or have to get you back out to Australia as well.
I'm down, man. I'm absolutely down. Let's do it. Thank you, my brother. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, brother. Awesome chat. Really appreciate you as well.